Is everyone getting through with the attendance form? Just confirming that everyone can hear me.
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay. I wasn't getting any responses. I was feeling a bit lonely for a second there. Okay, so I'll give you guys your time to fill out the attendance form. We will resume at 12:04. Okay, so I hope that wasn't too little of time, and if it was, just advising you guys to keep the attendance form open in a separate tab, so you could go back and fill it out when we have the other section. I will have another time slot for you guys to fill out the attendance form, especially for persons who would now be joining, right? So many persons, right, getting into the topic now, many persons fail to grasp why persons use self-harm, suicide ideation, and suicide as ways to cope or deal with their stressful situations, right? They think that it's weak, they think that it's for attention, it's pointless, and it's selfish. So now I would like to bring Ava, right, our childline counselor, to the front of our panel, so that she can give you guys some more insight into why people, particularly children and young persons, typically find themselves using self-harm as a way of coping, and what exactly can cause them to begin to consider suicide, as well as sharing with us some treatments for suicide ideation. So I will bring Abel Alexis to the front of the screen for you guys right now.
Thank you, Naomi. Are you hearing me, right?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay.
We can hear
Did you know suicide is a common human response to difficult environmental factors and emotional distress? I'm not able to turn the slide name. How can we reduce suicidal thoughts and feelings, improve life circumstances, enhance social connection, and reduce emotional distress? Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually give you a definition of what self-harm is first, and then we can go into the other parts, right? So self-harm is also known as a non-suicidal self-injury, abbreviated NSSI. It's deliberately injuring oneself without suicidal intent. The most common form of NSSI is self-cutting, but other forms including burning, scratching, hitting, intentionally preventing wounds from healing, and other similar behaviors. To add to self-harm, there are two forms of self-harm, which is direct self-harm and indirect self-harm. Direct self-harm will be like cutting and injuring oneself. However, indirect self-harm would be such as behaviors, right? More focus on behaviors, risky sexual behaviors, drug and alcohol abuse or use. A lot of people ask the question, are tattoos and body piercing self-harm? It is not, unless the person it is created specifically for that intention. However, most people get tattoos and piercings for different reasons, such as expression of art and unique identity. Where do people self-harm? NSSI is often inflicted on the hands, wrists, stomach, or thighs, but it can occur anywhere on the body. Why children harm themselves? NSSI may be linked to traumatizing experiences that are happening now or in the past. Self-harm is most often described as a way of to express or cope with emotional distress. So there are many contributing factors as to what causes emotional distress. It is often a buildup of little things that lead a person to think about self-harming or carry out the act, right? So expressing or coping with emotional distress, trying to feel in control, a way of punishing themselves, relieving unbearable tension, a cry for help, a response to intrusive thoughts. So intrusive thoughts are negative thoughts or distressing thoughts that you can't help but get out of your mind. That would be like, for example, COVID is going around, so you don't want to sit certain places or you don't want to do certain things and fear of getting at germs, but it can go further into something really distressing, such as thinking of hurting a baby and stuff like that. Right? So these are more experiences that contribute to emotional distress in children, which is poor mental health, right? Poor mental health can occur with adverse childhood experiences that occur in the home, the community, or the environment, right? If a child is being bullied at school, the pressure of school or work. So school is very difficult, especially when children are going higher in grades. The schoolwork tends to become more complex, and a child that is able to focus on their schoolwork in a comfortable environment compared to a child that's going home to a stressful environment, their response in school will be different, and they will be experiencing more challenges, difficulty focusing and stuff like that, right? Family arguments and relationship problems, financial issues, low self-esteem, low self-confidence. So there's a difference with but what is self-esteem and what is confidence? People tend to believe that it's the same thing. Self-esteem is the overall subjective sense of self or personal worth, while self-confidence is your ability, your trust in oneself to achieve a particular goal or task, right? So once you encourage a child to be more confident and raise their self-esteem by, letting them do things on their own, allowing them to be able to achieve certain things on their own, right? Stress, anxiety, and depression, confusion about sexuality, grief, and abuse. Now, Joshua will explain this section.
Hi, I'm Joshua Williams again. Now, I completely agree, especially when speaking from a youth's perspective, where I may also add that the heavy influence of social media on our emotional states. So it can be quite difficult when you constantly see people around your age or even younger displayed in this wide variety of achievements, so-called lavish lifestyles, or what many youths might consider ideal body goals. Now, unfortunately, this typically leads to body dysmorphia, feelings of inferiority, an unrealistic expectation overall of what they should or should not be doing at that age. So, to anyone out there, please know that social media often falsifies things to appear more glamorous than they are, and that you yourself are good enough. Now, I believe that we should go into more detail on the topic of suicide and suicide ideation.
Abel,
Yeah.
your mic is unmuted. Yeah.
So what is suicide ideation? Suicide ideation is when a person thinks about killing themselves. Suicide ideation is referred to as suicidal thoughts. The thought might or might not include a plan to die by suicide. So there are two types of suicide ideation. One is passive suicide ideation. It is a person has specific thoughts of suicide, of hoping that someone will bounce them down when they go out, not wanting to be alive, wishing to go to sleep and never waking up again, but doesn't intend or plan to commit the act themselves. The second one is active suicide ideation. It is when a person not only has thoughts about suicide or self-harm, but develops a plan of action.
Right. And as you clarify the differences between passive and active suicide ideation, I instantaneously thought of a friend who would most definitely fall into the category of passive suicide ideation. Unfortunately, he was coping with isolation and anxiety from the pandemic, as well as parental pressure to perform well academically, regardless of his mental health. He soon went from jokingly saying that he wished he was dead to actually and genuinely hoping that he would, and attributing this, in his own words, to being no reason to live anymore. Now, the point of this little anecdote is to urge people to reach out to get professional help to persons that you may know who speak like this, as it can very well develop into active suicide ideation. That being said, what would lead people to commit suicide?
People come, there are various reasons people commit suicide. Some of them which are feelings of hopelessness, feeling as though there would be no better days moving forward. This is the end, risky games that causes unintentional or accidental suicide. So this is very important because I remember when I attended secondary school, it had this game called the choke game or something like that. You do some 10 deep breaths and then you choke yourself to meet a brief high. And within that period, a few children from the US actually died from that game, right? So you'll choke yourself and then you will feel a dizzy or high, whatever the feeling was, and then you will die, right? Another one is substance abuse and impulsivity. So when you drink a lot of alcohol, some of these people drink a lot of alcohol, go out and stuff like that, and then end up in fights or end up overdosing as well, right? Grief and loss, poor mental health, mental illnesses, and traumatic stress or events. So treatments for suicide ideation, there are various treatments for suicide ideation and self-harm. So this can apply for self-harm as well. So as Joshua mentioned earlier, is that you should seek professional help if you have thoughts of passive or active suicide. Also, self-harm. We advise parents to always, in the event that your child express that they want to die or they are expressing some form of suicide ideation, it is important to carry them to the nearest hospital so they can get an evaluation done. Because we do not know how severe the situation is, how intense or how frequent these thoughts are coming to this child, right? Psychotherapy, it allows clients to identify and explore the issue that triggers them and causes them to feel suicidal. They then learn new coping strategies to help them manage their emotions more effectively. Now, this type of therapy is done by a trained professional, so anybody, not any and everybody can do this, right? And medication. In the event that somebody has a mental illness, it has antidepressants, antipsychotic medications, anti-anxiety medication, and other medications for mental illness can help reduce symptoms, which can help clients feel less suicidal. To note also, suicide ideation and self-harm are common symptoms in mental health illnesses and also poor mental health. So it is important that you all engage and children engage in activities, fun activities, and such as socialization and stuff to actually help them with their mental health. Thank you.
I also want to bring up a really important point, and it's the belief that self-harm is nothing more than a trend that teens use to fit in. Now, I know that when a lot of parents and guardians saw the promotion for the flyers, that this was one of the main things that grabbed their attention, the addressing self-harm being a trend. So I'm gonna talk about this now, but I want you guys to bear with me because it does include a lot of early internet and pop culture, right? Behind that statement itself, that essentially contributed a lot to the narratives like that, right? So let me switch aside here. Statistics, right? It shows that globally, many countries noted a spike in self-harm and suicidality among teenagers as early as 2011, right? So if maybe you would think back to a time when you really started hearing about self-harm in teenagers and suicidality in teenagers, if it fits around this time frame, then this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? So during this time, it was common to see popular videos and pictures that contained content that expressed feelings of suicidality and depression and self-harm on major social media platforms like Tumblr, well, back then, and Facebook, which is still popular today, right? And I don't know if you guys would notice a lot of Facebook, for a lot of Facebook users, you would realize that Facebook has done a lot if you pay attention to what Facebook has been doing and stuff in terms of their views. But Facebook has been making a lot of efforts to reduce the amount of suicidal content on their webpage. They have to make a conscious effort to fix their algorithm and stuff like that, right? So keep in mind that all of those things came as a reaction because of the spike that we saw during this 2011, even back to 2008, but 2011 more specifically, right? So these type of posts, right, the ones that you're seeing on your screen right now, these type of posts, they fall under a category called digital self-harm, right, and digital suicide ideation, which are, as you learned before, ideation or the thoughts of suicide and stuff like that. And digital self-harm and digital suicide ideation, they basically mean the online posting or sharing of hurtful content, right, about oneself. Okay, so we see on our screen, I wouldn't mind if someone just came and shot me in the head. I don't know how many of you guys, since I know most of you guys may be adults, but as a person who was using Tumblr and Facebook back then, I can attest that these are the type of posts that you would be seeing on those websites, right? So it wasn't uncommon and it was not rare. So because of these posts, many persons, they found a community through their mental hardships on these social media platforms. I hope you guys understand that social media is really about community and niche and what you like, I like, and we form a group and it makes a safe space for persons who enjoy or relate to similar content, right? So a lot of persons found a community in mental hardships, a lot of children, right? But unfortunately, the reason why this is a topic that we're discussing now is because the notoriety of these spaces, they blew up when some persons who were teenagers, right, in their life, in their real life, not their online persona, but they lost they lost control, right? They lost their hope, they lost whatever was tethering them to where they were, and they decided to commit suicide. But before they decided to go on to the act of suicide, because they had their community there online, they would make their suicide post and they would post it up online for everyone to read, and then they would unfortunately commit suicide. And the reason why this is such an impactful time in internet culture is because when one did it, a lot of persons also followed, right? And you see this not regular, but you see the start of the posting of suicide notes online and then the reports of children dying by suicide, right? So newspapers highlighted this as an epidemic. And I have it up on screen right now, some newspaper articles. They highlighted it as an epidemic, right? A lot of people started to call it a trend, all right? And for some persons who didn't really understand the nuances behind it, they started to call it a silly attempt of teenagers just trying to fit in to what's, popular at that time.
Yes, but you see, It's not, in fact, a silly attempt to fit in, however. People, we must remember that as adolescents, us adolescents had to not only endure the complexities of growing up and puberty, but also a worldwide pandemic, which completely shifted life as we knew it. Could you imagine being extremely social and now being isolated for 2 years? Or what about those whose only safe space was away from home, that now had to stay in that home indefinitely? Many cries for help are translated into that suicidal behavior mentioned previously. So instead of judging first, why don't you all consider empathizing and reaching out to persons such as that? Trust me, sometimes seeing someone take you seriously and show genuine care can make a big difference. Now, what does this say from a research perspective?
From a research perspective, people who tend to engage and be drawn to media depicting self-harm and suicide ideations, they are already vulnerable, right? They're vulnerable because of their age. Like if they are an adolescent who is still figuring out themselves, and how to navigate themselves in this world. They're vulnerable because they may not have a good relationship with their family or their friends. And they're vulnerable because they may live in a community that is depressed or unloving. And why I say persons who tend to engage and be drawn to these things are already vulnerable is because a lot of people were on these websites during this time period, but not all of them, when they were exposed to the content, ended up using the content, or actually taking the content and internalizing it and realizing that that is a way for them to use as an output for what they're feeling inside. Not everyone who experiences distress and feelings of despair and stuff like that navigate towards suicidality and self-harm. A lot of persons have other type of coping mechanisms, but unfortunately, for persons who are vulnerable because of their age, vulnerable because of their lack of support, vulnerable because they perceive themselves to be living in a depressed or unloving community, they become vulnerable to using self-harm as a distress outlet, right, for their feelings. So I need everyone here with us today to understand that when an adolescent becomes exposed to reports of suicide, like a lot of persons will, when a lot of suicide notes started popping up on major social media platforms way back then in 2011, right? When they become exposed to reports of suicide, when they become exposed to acts of self-harm and suicide ideations, it quite literally legitimizes those things, right? The self-harm, the suicidal ideation, the thoughts, yeah, man, today just need to just kill myself in order to, because I'm not gonna be able to get through this day and just kill myself one time. Those type of things, it legitimizes, when they see others doing it, it legitimizes those acts as real avenues to deal with their emotions, right? Especially among children who are already experiencing some sort of distress and trauma, like what Jehoshua shared with us, right, and pointed out. Okay, so we need to be mindful of these things. But why we have this webinar specifically for parents, for guardians, for professionals who may be parents and guardians, is because a lot of persons, they don't fail to, but they can't comprehend how child issues, right? Like not fitting in with their friends, having somebody talk to them one day and then they don't talk to them the next, and that's like the end of the world for them, right? They don't compare, they don't understand how these issues compare to their bills, their taxes, their marital relationships that are going through a lot of havoc right now, and their issues with that they're having in the workplace. They don't understand how those things could possibly compare to their stress, right? But what I want to advise and what I want to say is that just as these situations are real for adults, the workplace drama, the marital issues, right? The stuff with the coworkers. Excuse me, let me just mute. Someone has their mic. Okay, you did it for me. Thank you. Thank you for that. Right? But just as these situations are real for adults, right? The issues that you guys face are real and they're valid. The issues that children face as well are real and they're valid, right? Not especially for children, the experiences during their time is extremely impactful. I mean, I'm sure there's some things that happened to you guys in childhood, positive or negative, that you still remember to this day. Maybe some of you who have explored mindfulness and self-awareness, and that you really go into it and you really try to figure out how certain things in your childhood impacts you as an adult today. If you've gone through that route, you would understand the real seriousness of how events in childhood impact how you behave as an adult today, right? And what we recognize is that during childhood and adolescence, children who experience negative events, I don't want to say experience negative experiences, but they experience negative events and the likes, right? They can adopt habits or they can develop things like low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and adopt habits like never contributing to conversations, right? Because they've been shut down and shut out of conversations. They've been told that their opinions don't really matter when it comes to adult conversations and stuff like that. And they start to talk less, they start to shrink, and their self-esteem becomes lower and their self-confidence, as Abel described the difference between those two things. It just becomes much, much lower, right? So before I move on, in a minute, I want to again ask persons to fill out our attendance form. And of course, this won't take very long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the chat and I'm going to repost the attendance form for everyone. Right? So it is in the chat for everyone to receive. And I just want you guys to take 1 minute to fill that out if you have not done so already. And we'll resume shortly. Okay, is there anyone who would like a bit more time to fill out the attendance form? If you let me know, I'll give you some more time. Okay, no? All right, so let me give you guys a little bit more piece of information before I ask you guys if you have any questions, right? And that is, if you suspect your child of having suicidal ideations, engaging in self-harm, or actively considering suicide, right? You should first and foremost, as a preventative measure and in this scenario, be aware of the warning signs of suicidal ideation, of self-harm, of suicide, right? Try your best, because it is something that you would have to practice. It's really easy as humans to dismiss other person's concern and prioritize yourself. So I'm not really bashing you, anyone who has done such a thing, especially to their children or persons close to them, right? But I'm just saying that it's something that we would have to practice, and the practice makes perfect, right? So don't dismiss the stress and the problems that your children face. Become a person that they can talk to, right? Because as we see with children, over the course of history, right, they gravitate towards the place where they feel accepted, right? And that's what's happening with social media and stuff like that. So that's why a lot of children are engaging in communities where there's a lot of digital self-harm and digital suicide ideations that may very well, as passive as it might seem in those spaces, become an active situation or active reaching out to suicide and self-harm as a way to cope, right? So practice active listening and practice letting your child or your children know that you would like to hear what they're going through, right? And this and the first point that we just talked about goes hand in hand, because when you hear what they're going through and if you think it's silly and then you dismiss their stress and problems, uh, it wouldn't work out. It really would not work out, right? So let your children know that they are important and that they can overcome their issues. And then be aware of the mental health services and resources for children and share it with them. And I would share it with you so you guys could share it with them, right? That's what I'm going to do in a second. But before we reach there, I know we talked about a lot, right? So I'm going to ask everyone, if they have any questions, if they want a recap of a certain section for us to go over anything that we talked about so far, before we go into where children in Trinidad and Tobago can go to seek mental health support. So the floor is open for any questions, any concerns, and any comments.
Hi, good day.
Hi, good day. Can I know
Yes,
your
hi.
name?
This is Rachel here. I just have
Rachel,
a
okay.
question. It says, yeah, how is there some tips that you could give us in terms of how would we know if your child's threat, suicidal threat? How do you know when to take it seriously and when not to? I'm kind of curious about that.
Okay, so you want to
Can
know.
someone repeat it, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it back, how I interpreted it, and Rachel will let me know if that is exactly what she meant, right? So Rachel, you're asking if there are any ways where we could know whether the statements that your child is saying are they just things that they're saying, or are they really suicidal, or are they really engaging in self-harm?
That is correct, especially the suicidal one where, sometimes they find it that they get frustrated and they make a comment like, I would just kill myself and all they would have to
Yes.
worry about me again and that kind of thing.
Right, right. So, Abel, do you have any advice for parents who want to know, when do I really take the things that this child is saying seriously?
I would say that you should take it seriously from the moment they mention it. So when they say something like, I'm so frustrated and I don't want to be here anymore, you get down, you probably go and calm down yourself, because most people will respond to this in an aggressive way, and that will close the door for communication with your child, right? If I say, find out, like, why are you saying that? Are you serious? How long have you been feeling like this? So you ask more questions, you engage that child, and keep that statement in mind, and moving forward, you show more interest in their day. How was your day? Were you feeling frustrated? Ask them more questions so they will be able to be more open with you. Because these statements should be taken seriously from the moment they mention it. Firstly, I know children make a lot of bad jokes, but you can let them know that that statement is not acceptable and stuff like that if it was a joke. If you realize moving forward it was a joke. But you should take it very seriously from the first time.
Rachel, do you think that this tip would be helpful to you? Knowing your situation,
Yeah.
knowing your child.
Yes, definitely it is. Well, it's not for my
Okay.
child, but yes, it is. It would be. I can have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm really glad that you were able to get that. Are there any other persons who has any other questions or concerns or comments?
Good afternoon. This is Dasha speaking.
Okay, good afternoon, Dashra.
Hi. So my question is this. So what about a child or children who is not displaying any physical signs of, suicide?
You're breaking up. You're going in and
ideation?
out, Dashra. I can't hear
Are
you
you hearing me?
clearly.
Are you hearing me now?
Yeah,
Hello?
I'm hearing you fine.
Okay, yes. So I'm saying, what about a child or children who is not really displaying any signs of suicide ideation? However, they are going through that,
Okay, I want to ask if
situation.
anyone was able to hear her question.
I heard she said she asked if there's a child who isn't showing any signs of it, but they are going through something. She didn't finish.
Yes. So in a case like that, how do we deal with that child? Because he or she may be acting normal, but yet still internally they are going through that, turmoil, right? But it tend on the outside to be acting normal and, probably to feel that everything is okay with them, but there is this internal, as I said, confusion going on within them. So how do we deal with that?
Right. So in the event, in Naomi, would you like to answer that?
Hello?
Hi, would you like to answer that question? Is everyone hearing me?
Yes, we could hear you.
Yes.
Okay, I asked if Naomi would like to answer that question. She's logged off. Okay, so I'll answer that question. In the event that you suspect that child is going through some sort of emotional distress, it is good that you reach out for help, or you can start to build a line of communication with that child. Find out how was their day. Simple little questions. And with teenagers, it can be difficult because they are more withdrawn and they would be in their room a little more. But that stage is very important for parents. It's known as the most difficult stage. However, you can reach out to that child. Every day, you make it a conscious effort. You speak to them. How are you? How was school? These things are very important because when you communicate with your child and your child can relate to you or feel comfortable letting you know certain things. And another thing I want to mention is be mindful of how you respond to certain things. If you see your child self-harming or if you are seeing certain tendencies of suicide ideation, be mindful of not attacking that child and saying, looking for attention and stuff like that. Take a 5 minutes because it can be a difficult thing to digest, and then you can learn to respond to it differently. Asking questions, communication is very important. And as you ask the question, going back to the question, they can call Childline and request counseling so that child can go through the process of finding out what is, or the counselor and the child can go through the process of finding out what is wrong if they are not willing to talk to you about the issue, right? But if you find out or you realize that something is different about your child, it is important to seek the help and advice to help her identify or him identify what is going on. Do you have anything to add, Joshua?
Jehoshua. It's Jehoshua, not Joshua.
What is that?
Jehoshua, not Joshua.
Okay. Okay, my bad.
No, it's okay. No, I don't think I have anything to add at the moment. I think we could proceed unless anyone else has any questions.
Disha, did you, was that good enough for you? Or you have a question again?
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Hi, I have
Yes,
a question.
Hi.
This is Donna. So my question is, so how do you identify if a child is actually just looking for attention and a child who is actually crying out for help?
When you say a child is looking for attention, because most people identify it as looking for attention, but I would say it is a cry for help. Because most children would not self-harm to look for attention, right? It is some emotional distress that may affect that child. It may not be the home environment, but it could be the school environment, not fitting in, not being able to socialize with their friends as they used to. So those things are not considered, I would say, this is my opinion, are considered like a attention seeking, right? But more cry for help. The event that you realize the child is saying these things, you want to get down to the bottom of it, find out what happened or what is contributing to their stress and stuff like that. And Childline has a helpline in the event that you want them to get some sort of advice or guidance, they can call our helplines and we would be able to provide that information for them, right?
Okay, so I was a bit confused with that because where I currently work, it's a children's home, right? And one of
Yeah.
the children is displaying behavior of self-harm. Now, the thing is, we took him to get therapy and stuff, and the therapist said that he is just doing it to get attention. So that's why I was confused to that because I was like, that does sound right to me, but that is the professional. So how? So that's why I asked.
I'm not too, I can't talk based on her statement, but most times the children are in homes, right? So they would have experienced some traumatic event because the change or the transition from their homes to a home in itself, the difference in environment is a traumatic experience. So that child could well as be self-harming for that purpose or other issues that they may be experiencing, right?
Okay.
Hi guys, I'm really, really sorry. My internet completely dropped. That was a response to Dashra.
That's a response to Donna. Donna asked, how do you identify the difference between a child looking for attention or actually has self-harming tendencies?
Okay, I see. But was Dashra's concern addressed?
Yes, it was.
Okay, that's great. You guys, I'm really, really sorry about that. Is there anyone else who would like to share anything before we move, um,
I'm not hearing you clearly, Naomi.
I believe somebody raised their hand, Mr. Bruce.
if you want to try and over?
Hi, good day, everyone. You hear me?
Yes, good day.
Good day. I have a question. For what I've observed that there's a very good ad on the radio waves right now that speaks about a child who's sharing with a friend that her mother's boyfriend is doing things for her and wants to spend time with her alone, and the friend tell her, no, that guy's just trying to groom you and to have sex with you and stuff like that. I think it's a very good art because I mean it really tells parents to be aware of where the children are and how and that relationship that they have with their significant other. I remember one of the programs we had, it was recently either last week or week before. One of the things that spoke about was abuse and the impact of abuse had to do with the relationship that one of the factors was that the relationship the child has with the abuser. If you have a child who is already withdrawn, so like a teenager, and that child has been subjected to some form of grooming, or let's say even worse, sexual abuse by a significant other in the home, and that child is perhaps has feelings of guilt and shame that they may have been in some way responsible for that. How do you detect that they have suicidal ideation?
Okay. Thank you for your question. This is Gary.
Yes, correct.
Yes, I remember you joined the webinar the last time. Now, you said that the child is already withdrawn. It might be very difficult to engage in communication with them, I believe, especially with things that you suspect or you know happened, right? The best way to reach out to them as of right now would be to probably let them know that you know that they're going through something very stressful or distressing. The issue is that they might not want to open up to you specifically about what happened, but they may want to open up to somebody who's there to give them professional and anonymous help, right? So what you can do, and Ava will give you some more insight into this, is to contact Childline's helpline, if this person, to just bring them onto it. Would like to talk to the helpline about what occurred or any of their feelings, or to even suggest that try to request counseling, right? Professional counseling to work through what they experience. So I'll let Abel talk on that counseling matter a bit more. Yeah.
Okay, so it's difficult to see someone who is suicidal and you don't wait on your sleep. However, but if you are seeing changes in behavior, it is usually something, and negative change in behavior is usually a cause for concern. And that is basically your time to seek the help that's available. So as Naomi mentioned, our helpline and stuff, you can extend the line to her and we can build a relationship and stuff over the phone, and then we can talk about the issues that is affecting her. In addition, if you know the school, if that is your child or someone you know, the school that they attend to, you can go into school and find out if they have a school social worker so they can provide some sort of support. And also, if you can have that conversation, communication is very important in this aspect, because you would never know someone is self-harming, because some people don't self-harm on their arms. They self-harm on the inner thighs, on their legs, where you're not seeing it, right? Or they're suicidal thoughts. You can't know what someone is thinking unless you ask, unless you engage in conversation. And when you do that, then you would be able to let her know that you're not alone. What happened to you was not your fault. Encourage her to come out of that sense of, believing that was her fault and she should have known better, because she's a child and she cannot give consent, and she doesn't necessarily have to know better, because the adult was there to take care of her and provide her with some sort of safety, and they took advantage of that situation. Did you hear that, Gary?
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
No problem.
All right. So let me go through the places where children can seek support in Trinidad and Tobago, and then I would answer. We would open the floor to any further questions. So I'll do that very quickly, since I know some of you guys are using your lunch break for this, right? So let me let you guys know about Childline. We are a non-governmental organization, right? Established in 2001. That is dedicated to the protection and the well-being of children in Trinidad and Tobago. And through Childline, as I was mentioning before, you can have access to a 24/7 helpline that is available 365 days a year. So we're there on Christmas, we're there on Easter, we're there on all the public holidays that you can think of, right? And you could get through to us for free at our toll-free number at 800-4321 that's on the screen now. This is a perfect thing to recommend or to let your children know, or any of the children that you are surrounded with know that there's this anonymous, there's this safe, and there's this confidential helpline that is available 24/7 for children who may be experiencing any sort of distress, any sort of annoyance, anything that is impacting their emotions. It could be about their CSEC exam grades. It could be about something as serious as abuse that they're facing, right? So it can be anything on the spectrum. We also have a live 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Live web chat where children and young persons can share their concerns, right, and receive the same support, right? So especially so you have the live web chat that is available. I suggest you guys share this with children who may be experiencing any sort of distress, right? And you guys can access this through Childline's website at Childline.
Yep.
Which is on the screen, or a Childline app. That is our app. The services and resources available.
Naomi, you're breaking up a little bit, okay? Did you hear me? Okay, so, okay. I can't
Hi guys, hear me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes, we can.
I'm really sorry, guys. I have no idea why the internet is breaking up so much. But as I was saying, Childline has a live 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. live web chat that you guys can access on childlinett.org or the My Childline app. I hope that everybody is seeing, right? Great. So on this app and on this and on our website, persons can also request in-person or virtual counseling sessions for free. So once again, I highly recommend that you encourage your children to download the My Childline app, which also has many child protection resources like mood trackers and diaries. It's basically a mental health and child protection hub. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to share the QR code for the app on the screen, so you guys can be aware of that. And I will also send the link in the chat once I go over the next slide, right? In interest of time. So I'll give that 1 second for you all to possibly screenshot really quickly. And now I'm changing the slide now. So in Trinidad and Tobago, there are other mental health support services for children and adolescents beyond Childline, right? So for those who are not aware, there are child guidance clinics, right? Child guidance clinics are available for children and provide psychiatric assessments. This is where these are the type of assessments that you need to know whether your child may have formally know whether your child may have a mental illness, right? And it can guide you on whether your child can use medication to alleviate any of these symptoms, like Ava was talking about in the treatment section, right? So this is where you'd be able to get your diagnosis and the medications that are most suitable for the child based on their circumstances, right? So I have the contact information up on the screen for you guys to take note of. There is also the Calm Clinic. The Calm Clinic, they provide mental health services to children, but only children within the age group of 12 to 19 years old, right? So if you know any children between 12 to 19 years old who may benefit from such a service, you can take note of the Calm Clinic, right? So for more information on where they operate, when they operate, right, you can call the number on the screen, 397-7016, right? So there's also the SSSD hotline, right? These are the type of persons who would probably they'd probably guide you towards the social workers within the school, like Ava was mentioning, if the child go into that child's school and figuring out if they have that professional in school to provide them with any support. These are the type of people, this is the place where you're going to be calling, right? Because they provide counseling, they provide psychosocial assessments, right? So their contact information is up on the screen. Now, for immediate support, if you guys were not aware, we have Lifeline, right, which offers a 24/7 helpline for persons who are suicidal or experiencing emotional distress, right? So call 800-5588 or visit their website. They have a very nice website at lifelinett.com, so you guys can check that out or share that resource with any of the children in your lives, or even keep it for yourself personally, right? And also, because a lot of the issues that children face are based on really traumatic experiences that they are facing in their life, I also included the domestic violence hotline, right, which provides counseling, and they provide referrals to victims of domestic violence, right? So you can call 800-7283, and then there's Childline. Okay, so I want to open up the floor again for any sort of questions as we begin to close, right? Any questions that were left unanswered? I'd like to ask you guys if you'd like to let us know what those are, and we'll try our best to answer them. Okay, so while you guys are thinking up, what I'm going to do is ask you guys to kindly fill out our exit survey, right? This exit survey lets you know whether this webinar was worth joining in the first place, if you got the information that you hoped that you would have received and such like that, right? Right, so I'm seeing.
I think there's a
Yes.
message in the meeting chat right now.
Yes, so is the presentation being emailed to us? The information, the entire presentation will not be emailed to you. I say unfortunately because there was a lot of internet lapse. You will have access to the recording, right? I know it might be difficult to watch through during certain times, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you guys in PDF format the resources such as the mental health services that are available for children. I'll be sending that to you guys as a PDF copy for you to have on hand, right? So y'all will have access to the recording.
Naomi, can you paste the link in the chat to the exit survey, because a lot of people aren't getting on it.
Oh yes, I'm very sorry about that. It's posted in the chat right now. Yes? Yes. So everyone who's joining will receive. If you join this link, if you join the meeting externally and did not sign up using your email address, I may not have your email address saved in the registrar, right? In the registration. So if you join this webinar externally via the link on your website, please go back and register for the webinar so I have your email saved. Yes? If you're hoping to get the resources and such. So are there any other questions? No? Okay. So I thank all of you guys for joining the webinar today. I hope that the answers that you guys got and the information that you guys received was really informative, and more so than informative, inspiring for you guys to actually take action when you recognize any sort of signs, or you have any, if you have any thing that could cause you to believe that any child around you may be susceptible to suicide, suicidal ideations, or self-harm, right? So I hope that you guys become inspired to take action where it's due and also share the mental health resources with the children in your life so that they can be aware that there are places where they can receive support in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, so thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Abel, and thank you, Joshua, for contributing to the panel discussion that we had today. And thank you, all the participants, for being interactive. Yes? So I'll see you guys in the next webinar.
Hello,
Yes,
is
yes.
anyone hearing? We are not
Yes.
seeing any link to submit.
You're not seeing any link to submit the exit survey. Okay, let me copy and let me paste it again. Okay. Are you seeing it in the chat now? I know I'm giving a lot of internet issues. Are you able to see it now? I'm seeing it. It's there. Okay. All right. I'll stop presenting.
What I said was that we were not seeing the submit button. That's what I meant. The
On the
submit
web page
button.
itself.
Yeah.
If you look at the bottom of the last question, you will just see the box.
Yeah.
The word submit is not there. So you can click
I pressed it and it's, yeah, I did that and it did not go through. It asked me, let me try it again and see what happens and I will let you know.
I did it just now. It was because one of the questions was not answered. So I had to just answer the question and then click back the box. Even though it's not saying submit in the box, click the box and it's supposed to submit.
Yes, yes,
right.
I believe.
This time it went through.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So,
it went through this time. Thank you.
Okay, so Brenda, I hope that little feedback there was great. Yes, please just click the box and we will receive it. I believe it's a functioning link, but I will see to it that it's fixed, right? So thank you guys so much once again. So we'll be logging off now if there are no more questions or concerns.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Have a good evening. Stay
Thank
safe,
you.
everyone.
Good evening,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank you.